So I think it's gone midnight, and I've been fucking around with this. Sorry, excuse my language. Sorry, Mum. Long story short, I basically got SIM card, so I've got internet on my phone basically, and I've been working my way through all the messages and people, and I've just checked where we're up to, and it's like, I mean, this may mean nothing to any non-Danes, but it's like 26,000 krona or something, which must be, I don't know, over $2,000 or something, and that's also with my parents who have seen it and have also donated a significant lump, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do GoFundMe, is because they have, I mean, helped me my whole life, but they have helped me significantly during this period. I mean, since I moved to Denmark, really. But it's got to the point where, you know, they're retired. This is their retirement fund, basically, and my inheritance. But like, you know, if there's prospects on the horizon, it's a worthy investment, but at some point it just becomes putting off the inevitable for money that will, you know, they'll never get back. So I figured it would be, it just seemed like a more suitable solution for a larger group of people to all throw in a little bit of money. I hadn't quite anticipated that actually a larger group of people would throw in quite a lot of money, and my parents as well. I still don't think I'm in a state to be able to deliver a respectfully concise video that is in any way coherent. But I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, just to update everyone, it looks like, and this is going to be subject to me trying to get a decent night's sleep. I've got some food in me, have some breakfast. I'm going to go around to my sister from another mistress place, Caroline's, tomorrow, and because she's a solid functioning adult, she's a real grown-up, that one. So I'm going to sit down with her, work out what we've got, and ask her to assist me in making some good decisions on how best to deploy what we've got. But at the very least, that's sort of phase one of, you know, I think we have more than enough to get the electricity back on, assuming, you know, it's been a while since I last spoke to them and asked what the damage was, and it turned out to be 3 times the amount that was outstanding. So I'm sure it's probably grown since then, but not more than we now have available. So that'll be done, hopefully. Got to speak to the landlord tomorrow as well, and just make sure that we're not too late, but I think there is also enough to basically in a couple of days, I'm going to end up being 2 months in arrears in rent. And the rent, by the way, over here, you also pay, I think, water and heating as well. So it's you know, it's rent and those things. I think, assuming that they haven't gone nuclear in the time since I last spoke to them, there is definitely enough to certainly clear last month's unpaid rent, which would be the month upon which they would pursue the sort of, you know, grounds to break the lease, I think, which basically gives me another month's grace. Anyway, I'll work all of this out tomorrow, but in the space of 24 hours, I mean less than 24 hours, basically tomorrow looks a lot different than this morning, and that's down to all of you, so thank you so much. I really can't, like, it's, you know, I of all the sort of circumstances and adversities that I've mentioned, they're all true, but, you know, none of them are, you know, things like the trouble with the 2 jobs that I've had, like, it's not unique to Denmark. That kind of corporate shithousery is endemic, and it's just part of the cut and thrust of professional life, cost of doing business. You know, even the end of a relationship at a sort of awkwardly surprising time, even the sort of the tone of the end of that relationship. None of these things on their own, this is all just part of life, but it's just been an accumulation of things that I have tried to stay on top of, in the face of my own shortcomings. You know, which I have many, and it's just got to a point where I no amount of optimism and furiously enthusiastic learning about the brain and, you know, all that kind of stuff. This was just beyond my gift this time, and the electricity was just checkmate, man. Honestly, one thing I learned in recovery, 8.5 years sober now, is that in the time building up to that, like it was some years of being extremely uncomfortable with my relationship with those things, and certainly the people around me. But it takes a long time to understand and get to grips with it. And anyway, all through that time, I was like, well, it'll be like the movies, you know. Everyone talks about rock bottom, right? And there'll be some Hollywood epiphany moment where you wake up in a dumpster with puke in your hair, wearing someone else's underwear, and, you know. That never happened to me, by the way. So I don't know what anyone's saying, but they're lying, so ignore them. But one thing I learned is that, because there comes a point of desperation in that process where you feel so helpless to change yourself, because you're still trying what seems like the logical thing, but actually is the thing holding you back, which is that you have the power to stop. So you have to want to stop. And every time you try and you fail, instead of thinking, well, actually, maybe that's a wrong assumption, I need to look at other stuff, you just keep trying and failing and trying and failing in this most demented, illogical way. And of course, just internalizing all that along the way. But you end up relying on the fact that there's got to be a rock bottom. But there is no such thing. Things can always get worse. And it was a bit like that this time. Because the long period where I was worried about paying rent every month. No, sorry, there was a long period where I was worried about having food for the kids when they're with me. Then there was a long period about worrying about falling behind in rent. Then I fell behind in rent, and there was a long period about worrying about not being able to pay last month's late rent in time to not get evicted. And all the while, you know, all the applications, I've had 2 job interviews, and the job interview in the shop that I mentioned, just when I thought, right, I think, you know, things are pretty tough. Surely it can't get any worse, right? I was sat here on the internet just doing some last minute research, and all the lights just went out. And I think, you know, I must have known that was coming, because I knew that I had to sort of ignore the electricity bill in order to get the rent paid, right? Or at least only 1 month behind. Anyway, I thought, you know what, I've got a bit of money right now, so I'll go and do the interview. I'll call them up, get that switch back on. I was almost laughing at it, but when I called them back up and they were like, yeah, the outstanding amount is like 200 quid. But in order to get reconnected, there's this and that and this, and we'll want to deposit and stuff. That'll be 700 quid, please. I was like, what? And it just checkmated me. And there began a period of, I literally had nowhere to go apart from sit here, realizing that living with no electricity was not going to be a temporary measure, right? Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is, despite an almost like comically typically David perfect storm of unfolding dramas that have happened really since I moved here. It's been 4 years now thinking, Are you serious? Literally waiting for a piano to fall on your head. If it wasn't for all of you, I'm not sure. The next step in this, it only gets worse. It was within the next 24 hours, 48 hours. Finally, after months of dreading it, being evicted, having to work out what to do with all of this stuff, which is now our belongings. Having, I threw away about 90% of my stuff when we moved here just because it was cheaper to transport. Having to work out what to do with all that stuff and probably just bin it. And then obviously, basically being homeless. And then, that even though I'm sure it can still get worse from there, I just know from experience, the drop from where I was when I posted that video to the next rung down, and if it wasn't for all of you, then that's where we would be. And at the moment, I'm back to where I was just before, but that's a luxury now. I realise now that's a luxury compared to where I've been the last 24 hours. And actually that's the main takeaway I've had from everything that's happened since I moved here, because as I mentioned before, I am usually optimistic and solutions focused to the point of irritation. Everything has been, I've learned so much about, that's what I came here to do, to be honest with you, was to learn so much about myself and life and what really matters. And anyway, it's all about perspective and gratitude, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because, you think it's bad, and then you get a taste of what the next stage of bad looks like, and you're pretty grateful to go back to the previous stage. But look, the immediate danger, if you like, solved. So, assuming when I speak to the landlords tomorrow, it's not too late, but I would be surprised if it is, because at the end of the day, my fellow real estate peeps, what they're going to do, take a hit on a void period while they find someone else. I mean, it probably won't be long before they do. Well, except all the viewings would be in this sort of avocado green apartment that's full of half-made upcycled furniture. So they might have a bit of trouble shifting it anyway. So I think it's going to be okay. So the immediate danger solved. Now, another month's grace, which it is now just feels by comparison like a lifetime. I have a plan which, I was absolutely incoherent yesterday. I would like to start talking about showing you some of the stuff I have in mind, really, just because it's quite a change in direction for me, but it's something else I've learned in this whole thing of being here. All the assumptions I had about me and my life, what I was capable of, blind spots I had to the things I will never be capable of. I wish I'm all right about, because, we can't all do everything. I'm quite excited about it. I think it's viable. I learned a lot of lessons from being in and around startups and businesses of all sizes, selling them office space for the last few years, and then also attempting to start my own business. So there's some wisdom gained there, and also the fact that there isn't really any pressure on this, in that it doesn't need to be a unicorn. It really just needs to wipe its own arse and keep a roof over our heads. And if it is something that I can expand, then there's going to be an opportunity to, offer some earning opportunities for other people like me, because it's difficult for foreigners over here. And I think the Danes, because they're reasonably new, they're relatively young when it comes to multiculturalism. In the UK, we've been used to it since the 50s, really. So it's not, I don't think it's any sort of deliberate coldness or meanness or malice. It is just a new development on a long-established culture and system and way of life. And it's an accident, and I'm sure the system will correct itself in time. But in the meantime, there's people that have come over here to settle down and start families and uproot their lives to move here and stuff. And, the answer is simply just to create more earning opportunities. And there's loads of opportunity for that over here. There's a lot of room for disruption. It's a bit of a wanky word, but basically just that there are underserviced growing demographics over here, and easy imaginative ways to service them, basically. So if I can turn it into something else that gives other people opportunities, that would be wonderful. And it's something that my kids would love to be involved in as well. Anyway, more on that tomorrow perhaps, once I've sorted all the other stuff out. 15-minute video, guys. It's a quick update. See what I mean? Like, I think a lot of it is actually down to the, it's been so nice to reconnect with and just be reminded that there's a lot of people out there that I really love and care about, but obviously still think of me, that a lot of them I've known for years, but haven't seen for years, especially my brothers and sisters in the flex space industry. Yeah, I appreciate that. Although you are still earning the big bucks selling that prime real estate, so share the wealth. But it's just, I'm very lucky over here. I've made some really good friends that I've met along the way, and they're friends that I can and do go to and lean on when I need to, and they would do the same with me. And then I've got my best friend Caroline, who's just a complete random happy accident that I met. She's like my sister, and her daughter, who's become my goddaughter. So I'm lucky enough now to basically have 3 kids, and going from being a father every day, going to sleep in the same place and waking up in the same place as your loved ones every day, it was just the norm for me. I never thought, I've never known any other family model, because my parents are still together and stuff, but obviously that's not always how it works out. But one of the hardest things that I found to acclimatise to is going from the full-on intensity of having no space but to focus on, and the moment you wake up, the moment you go to bed, looking after those 2 kids who are just, they're such amazing company as well. Like, I know everyone says they love their kids, but you see some other people's kids and you're like, really? You sure it's not just like you really like them, but love is, but my kids are the best, they're better than yours. That's a fact. Sorry. Going from that for a week and then just being on your own for a week, it's not something I think I will ever get used to. But the fact that I have been blessed with meeting this person that's become best friend, who also has an incredible little girl that I've known since she was a baby now, coming up in 3 years, 3 years, I think. They live just around the corner, and it means that I never stop being in sort of parent or carer mode. And it's just, yeah, I'm very blessed is what I'm saying. But I've realised now, when I end up reconnecting with so many of you people, that how isolated it is. And especially being in this place, is out of work, worrying about money, obsessively tinkering with this place, as if like bargaining with the universe. Like, it's the only thing that I feel that is actually within my power, is to keep improving this place and turning it into more of a home for the kids and me and stuff. But when it looks like you're going to lose it, you're basically just polishing the brass on the Titanic. It's like, it's quite isolating. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been really good to connect with you all. One last thing, actually, sorry, that I wanted to mention. 20 minutes, David. Come on, man. It's got to be shorter than the first video anyway, at least, and hopefully slightly more coherent. But looking back at that video, I mean, I look absolutely manic. And I have had periods over here of like just a real combination of things that have taken me to levels of anxiety, brain fog and fear that I've never been to before. I've lived a life, we all have. And I look at myself in that video. That video was the result of waking up another day, having tried and failed to do something that should be as simple as getting a GoFundMe up. And that's another day closer to oblivion. Difficult to describe, but the more this like oncoming truck comes at me, the more I just seem to go into this freeze response, which is absolute, like, I've learned all about the neurobiology behind it. It's all about the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system and all that kind of stuff. It's all fascinating. So I'm not like, I've always been quite cool with mental health. I'm not really scared of it or don't really care about any stigma. For me, it's just medical stuff. Not really alarmed by the symptoms, but they are fucking inconvenient at times. So anyway, I see that guy in that video, and then a lot of the people that reached out to me today that I jumped on the phone with, I realised that I slipped straight into a lifelong habit of this sort of masking. So they've seen me in a video looking like a madman, pulling his hair out, creeping around in the dark. And then they pick up the phone to me and I'm like, straight into the bands. Oh, you can't have it. Oh, that's not what I sound like. But it must have been really confusing for people, and they must have thought, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Is this, have I called the wrong number? So I just wanted to make reference to that I realised that video would have been very scary. And, that's the state I was in at that moment. But I assure you, I'm quite lucid. I see all of this as a learning opportunity, and I find it quite fascinating. I'm not in any danger. I mean, like, I'm leaving my kids in any sense is out of the question, which is why I'm fucking sitting here with a fish tank full of dead fish. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want anyone to worry about that. Yes, it is. It has got quite scary, only in terms of like, wow, the only future I can see right now is one of disaster, but I'm solid, and I don't want anyone to worry about me too much. I mean, I may never have considered myself ideal father material, but I have been deadly serious about the responsibility of raising human beings that are plopped out into the world against their consent, into circumstances beyond their control, that they have to exist in during the most crucial stages of their brain development, psychological development. And if you get that wrong too much, basically fuck them up for life. You take these innocent people that didn't ask to be here, you bring them into the world, fuck them up, and then be like, all right, see ya. I have been deadly serious about it ever since I found out I was going to be a father. And it's, typically haphazard, being me, but started with me. It was that finally was the catalyst for me to be able to really focus and dig down, and lots of therapy, hundreds of AA meetings, which for me were like going to like lessons on a course about, you've got a room full of people dealing with the same sort of thing and you can just absorb their wisdom. That was the thing after many years of trying and failing that was the impetus for me finally being able to get sober. That was 8.5 years ago. I could be getting absolutely shit-faced every day and getting away with it, which is all addicts need, really, is that we just need opportunity. When I haven't got the kids, I'm not. So that's the only thing that matters to me. And it's the best job I've ever had. It is the most meaningful lifelong vocation that I've ever had. And I am pretty deadly serious about it. So no matter how sort of old and haggard and mental I look, with a face like a drop pie and sort of, shaving in the dark, eyebrows on my cheeks kind of thing. And yes, I've lost a lot of hair. Unfortunately, that's just old age. I can assure you that I'm quite solid. But your help, just reconnecting, and you've brought it back from the precipice. And on behalf of my kids, as well as me, I want to make sure that when they're old enough to understand what was going on during that whole period, I will make sure they know that this is, in fact, there have been many times over the last few years where the reason why we're still here is because of the largesse and kindness of friends and family. So I'm going to make sure they know, and make sure they know how much they owe all of you guys plus interest as well. Anyway, 25 minutes, it's a bit better. Thank you. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, get on top of stuff, get the immediate stuff done. I've got my daughter's school Halloween party tomorrow night, so I'm picking up my son and taking him to that, and we're just going to grip it and rip it. We are going to fuck shit up. Tate loves to dance. I love to cause mischief, but I mean, given a choice, if I could only hang out and spend time with a small group of people or a certain type of people for the rest of my life, it would be my kids and their friends, because kids are so easy to make laugh, and I love making kids laugh. And anyway, so looking forward to that. But then if all goes to plan tomorrow, thanks to all of you, then I'll be heading into a weekend where I'll be able to hopefully get back on top of this place and start to focus a bit more. And then I'll start to bore you with all of the little design items and prototypes that I've been screwing around with in the dark here. Anyway, I'm still talking for some reason. I don't even know I'm doing it sometimes. But thank you, and sorry to worry you all. But you've saved a handful of lives here, and I don't mean like we're all going to die, but just in terms of outcomes, you know, you've done something quite significant and wonderful. So thank you. All right, okay. Sorry, bye.